Hello, and welcome to this installment of our publisher interview series. I'm Josh, the head of brand at Hedron, and today I am joined by Zarek and Ricky from Indominant Games. Guys, could I ask you to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. I'm Zarek Odinsky with over at Odinsky Gaming. I'm the lead designer of Indominant.
Yeah, I'm Ricky Rivera, the co-designer and lead product manager behind Odinsky Gaming.
Outstanding. Well, we'll talk a little bit about Odinsky. We'll talk a little bit about game design. You mentioned Indominant. This is, the first product that we're working with you guys to put on the platform at Hedron. So I'd love to hear your elevator pitch. Tell me a little bit about Indominant. What's someone who hasn't ever heard about it before got to look forward to?
Yeah, it's a superhero tabletop role-playing game. Its setting is a sci-fi world, so you're going to be traveling. You can travel between different galaxies. We have some cool high-tech stuff that allows that, but it's we always used to use the word crunchy, but I think just tactical, team-based, team-oriented game during combat, and then a lot of loose narrative elements where you can really let your creativity shine outside of combat and inside of combat, to be honest. But sometimes people will get like honed in on the kind of like mechanical aspects during combat, and so they role play a little bit less there. But we've had some really great experiences where role play during combat's amazing. So
yeah, I would add to it. It's a strategic and thematic, superhero game. You make the superhero that you really want to, and the comic editor who runs the game, our game master, can jump in and create heroic moments for you to go out there and save the world. So really, really fun, simple setup. And you can kind of expand to modern time all the way to high sci-fi if you want. So all up to your table.
Yeah,
and Ricky mentioned it, but customization of your character is like a very big thing in Indominant.
Yeah.
Outstanding. I think there are so many different types of heroes, and especially once you start thinking about different categories of powers and how do you handle this type of power versus that type of power, and do you use your flame powers this way or that way or the other way?
Exactly.
There's all kinds of things you can really get into. I'd love to hear if there were any specific sort of influences, either in terms of media that you found you kept going back to while working on Indominant, but also like mechanical influences, game systems that you thought did something really well, or that you think maybe Indominant plays similarly to.
Yeah, so I think I guess maybe I'll do mechanics, and Ricky, if you want to talk about the more flavor stuff. But mechanically, so we kind of started off, both of us, with mostly 5e D&D experience, but then I was heavily influenced by Pathfinder 2nd edition and a lot more like customization stuff like that. But even with those influences, I know those are both like quite rules heavy. Ricky and I, we both always agreed we really liked simple rules. And so we trimmed out a lot of what we thought was just like extra like minutia that we don't really like to care about. And I think that fits with superheroes as well. So I think at least like straight up mechanically, those are probably the very biggest influences. And then over time, we also just kind of branched out and made a lot of different changes and made what at least we know of are pretty unique systems, or mechanics, I should say. Our die resolution is pretty simple: D20, roll high, add modifier. But we have a special system instead of like advantage and disadvantage. It's called dominance and weakness, where you like add a die that gets bigger and bigger. You add that to your D20, but you kind of count it as part of your D20 roll. And then we have momentous actions, which both of those mechanics are actually hugely influenced by Ricky. He was like, let's make big changes and like change things up. And at first I was kind of resistant, and then I was like, yeah, let's try it out, because I have a big mentality. Sorry, I know this kind of goes into game design philosophy, but I have a big philosophy of being open-minded and trying out things, like giving them the college try, that phrase. And just giving them a chance to like think through them and see if they fit. And I think it's okay though to be like, yeah, that doesn't really fit our game. But it's worth trying out and testing out some new things and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so many influences, though. From Dragon Ball Z, all the way to Invincible. Different animes and shows. My Hero Academia, I think, influences both big time to even think about superheroes. But for sure, the world building, the story building, is taking a lot of the things that we love, making our own fun universe. I think any great creator does that, right? Any great artist, right? They take the best, right, and mix it for their own. And being able to then allow to have tools for the people who are sitting down and playing to build that actual world that they want as well. That they don't have to stay on Earth anymore. They can escape, the reality of the world right now and go out there and do some really cool things, really cool heroic things, save giant communities and all that. And then when we stick back to mechanics, we really got influenced by, of course, being able to play D&D, playing Pathfinder and so on. I'm a huge Magic fan and stuff, so I'm a big fan of that. But being able to take all those kind of different rules and so on and mix them into powers that I think are really fun, are really unique, and that anybody can draft off of that. They can actually create something off of that and customize it. Fire doesn't have to be fire. It could be taking away heat from something. You could use light to become a Sailor Moon or somebody like that, right? You don't have to use it the way we explain it, which has just been really amazing to see. Zarek mentioned our community taking those cool ideas. So a lot of the influence around all of it.
Yeah, I am endlessly amazed at the creative things that tabletop gamers come up with. I feel like anytime I read a rule and have an idea for how something works, I inevitably see someone play that game in a way that completely defies expectation. I think that's one of the coolest things about this, space where we exist. There's just so much creativity. If we could harness that, I think we could power the world.
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear a little bit of your stories about what led you to starting Odin's Key Gaming, and what led you to begin wanting to, write your own games, and perhaps even the origin story behind Indominant.
Yeah, I guess I'll start just because chronologically it makes sense. So at least for me personally, I always loved creating stuff for, I was big into video games since I was little. And so it kind of started with me playing League of Legends and Smite, and I would make characters, ideas for that, and items and things like that. And I also like to come up with different video game ideas of my own. And then I got into tabletop RPGs. I think I was 13 or 14. My older brother, he got me into the 3rd edition D&D. And so that's kind of where my first exposure was. And then I didn't play them for a while until I was 21, 22, and I met my friend, or one of my high school friends, Jared. He introduced me to D&D 5e. And then from there, I just, had a lot of fun, and I always loved superheroes, and I didn't see a lot of superhero games that felt like they fit what I wanted. And so I started working on it with my friend Jared, and then we were play testing, and this was maybe 2 years after I started designing the game, and Jared helped me. And then when we met Ricky, and I guess, Ricky, I'll let you jump in and start sort of explain how you joined up.
Yeah, for sure. Peak of COVID. I just had my first baby, and I was looking for extra hobbies to do because everybody was stuck indoors, right? Yeah. So found D&D 5th edition, played the heck out of it. I led a lot. I was doing a lot of dungeon mastering and so on. Had a great group of friends that we can still play to this day. But it was really cool to just see that kind of world of TTRPGs. And my wife actually saw Zarek post for playtesters at the time on Facebook. And my wife, being amazing, she's like, "You should reach out to my friend Zarek. He's just as nerdy as you are," right? So it was very fortuitous. I reached out right away, got along with Zarek and Jared, and I gave a lot of feedback just professionally. I do that for a living, and so he was like, "Hey, you're giving so much. much. Do you want to just join the team? I was absolutely down. It's been, gosh, 2.5, rolling up on 3 years now, something like that. It's been a long time, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think you joined in 2022.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
We're going on 3, almost 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and just being able to just bring the product together and kind of keep on pushing forward, and having other people be able to play and build the community, it's just been an amazing experience. So,
yeah, seeing a project come together is, I think, a really exciting process. It's time consuming and sometimes it's tedious, and there are a lot of moving parts you got to manage, but especially at the end of the day, when you go, oh wow, this thing has finally come together, all of the hard work has paid off, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. It's a really rewarding and fulfilling thing. And in particular, I'd love to talk with you guys a little bit about game design and game theory. Zarek, you already talked a little bit about wanting to try new things and being open to exploring different options. I'm curious for both of you, and we can get into a little bit of a conversation here. When you approach writing a game, doing game design, what are the things that are sort of like your highest priority or sort of top of mind as you're going into writing, whether it's for Indominant or something else that you've worked on perhaps? What are the things about cultivating a play experience that you are actively trying to prioritize as you go into any project?
For me, I think it starts with, I guess it's hard to describe it in a sense, but like a certain play experience. So, let's say I was making like a class, I would, or a game, I guess, for that matter, I would kind of pinpoint like what that experience that I want to achieve with the gameplay is. And then I would focus on making that fun and exciting. And then another big thing for me is balance in games, even in non-competitive games. To me, it's very important that there's game balance, because I want players to have the freedom of choice. I don't want them to see something that seems way better than another thing and feel like, oh, well, even if I don't like the way that sounds, it just seems so much better. So I want to choose that. And I know not everybody does that, but I just don't want that happening at all. So that's kind of my main approach. Like I said, is like, if I use an example from our game, like fire manipulation, the power set. When you think of fire, you think of like destruction and like big blasts and stuff like that. And so that's kind of what we really wanted to go for. And then like lighting things on fire. And so we have a system or a mechanic in our game we call an inherent effect. And that's kind of what we felt adds a lot of flavor, but also like a mechanical form of flavor to a certain set of powers or something like that. And then we kind of build around that. So every power set's built with their inherent effect kind of at their core, as like that's the identity. And so I do the same thing with games, I guess. The long-winded way of saying that is, if we want to make like a strategic combat focused game, then like that's kind of going to be the focus, and thinking about ways to make cool tactical options and teamwork and things like that.
Just to anchor on for that, the fun part is always top of mind. Every time we make a power, every time we make a talent or something, it's got to be fun. There's been so many times either Zarek's pushed to me or I pushed back to him that, hey, no, this isn't fun, But I think a bigger thing for me, honestly, is simplicity. I want so much to have our game be something that you jump into, you learn the rules once, and you can quickly play again. You don't have to remember, how did Indominant do this? How did Indominant do that? We had a very advanced injury system, and now it's just -1 to all these combat stats. That's it. We had a very advanced level growth, level 1 to 30. And that was actually one of the first things, I think even maybe that was my interview thing, Zarek, that I pushed back, like, you shouldn't go to 30. That's too much. But we've dropped down to 20. And so it's just things like that. It's like I kept on focusing on that way you can always jump in, you can play the game, you can make sure that you know all the things like very quickly. And it's fun. It all works together, right? And we've had people from very young ages. I think like our youngest player was like 10 years old, right? And we've had folks that are really, really up there, right? And with that, they jump in, they're like, wow, I'm a hero, right? And I think it's because we've nailed that in design, right? Like trying to make it something that anybody could play. So
yeah. I think in particular with a genre type game, one of the most important pieces is nailing that experience of, I'm in the world, right? There's an immersive component that's an interesting challenge to try and tackle. And of course, it looks different genre to genre. Going a little bit off script here, what do you think is part of the magic that lets Indominant capture that superhero world, playing a superhero vibe? Do you think it has to do with like the setting? Do you think it's mechanical? Do you think there's a little bit of a couple of things sprinkled in there? What's the secret sauce?
I think it's being able to say yes, that you can do things. Zarek will be able to say this better, but we've taken out a lot of the rules that would restrict things and more so focused on if your power makes sense to use that, then you can lift up this monster and put them in the lava to stop them from being a threat. And I've had that live happen on a game. And it was the coolest thing. The entire table cheered. We don't have a power for that. It just really worked really well. And for me, I was the comic editor, of course. Like, it was great to see that the table had that camaraderie. They were enjoying that and so on. And I think that's the big thing of like any great superhero game. You have to be able to say yes to things as much as you can to be able to also then work on things to balance, right? Like we went away from flight as well because flight is kind of overpowering. It's a thing. Well, anybody could fly away and destroy the Tarrasque, right? Going in D&D terms, right? So we wanted to make sure that there are things that we can say yes to and you can have fun with, but also keep in mind balance is important, or else, well, everybody's super and then therefore nothing is a threat to you, right? So,
yeah. If everybody's super, nobody's super. That's what they say, right?
Yeah. It's a famous line, Yeah. I think that's a great thing for superheroes that he nailed. And it's something, sometimes it's hard to like almost read through the lines, because when you read Indominant, we have a lot of powers and they tell you exactly what they do mechanically. They don't have a lot of flavor except for like the name and maybe a sentence of flavor, but you can use your powers outside of those. Like I always say, your capital P powers, which are those where it's like, fire blast and it does this. But then you have your lowercase powers, which is I can, let's just say I can create fire out of my hands, or like Ricky mentioned earlier, if you can absorb the heat out of something. Well, we cannot write like all these creative options and ways, if it's like technology or magic or just like a mutation, if you're like a mutant that can control fire. We don't write those things into the game because and we've seen it firsthand. People can create so many different ideas there. And so we really want to let the flavor be a really big factor for players. But we also still have like a semi-rigid mechanical structure, and it seems to work very well. Like we have a lot of people who completely reflavor a power set. So like fire isn't fire anymore, maybe it's like radiation or something. Or we've had a lot of people too, like make up their whole new power set ideas. Like there's already people home brewing, and they've used the power sets we have to make these cool ideas, and then they've taken those ideas and made whole new power sets with them, which is just really fun to see.
Yeah, it's cool to see people do fun and creative things with your work, isn't it? There's I think a special like it feels very rewarding. Like, someone, not only did they like this when they played it, they liked it so much that they wanted to go and do stuff with it. I think that's a sign of a game that people have really resonated with. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome to hear.
And just to add on, just to throw it out there, Josh, like a big thing as a company we want to get to is having like a kind of like open game license, like that kind of thing, you know, where people can make content for Indominant. So we do want to get there. We don't want to restrict people. You know, we want to have our way that people can make their own power sets, their own archetypes, all those kind of fun things, right? So eventually we're going to get there. It's just starting off with our core rulebook so that way everybody has all the tools available to even make a power, right? Make a power set and all that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, that's awesome. I totally hear it, though. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. You want to make sure that you've got the rules of the game nailed down and everything is published and out, and then let people, you know, go off to the races. They can have the horses without the cart. Awesome. I'd love to kind of wrap this up. You know, try to keep things short and sweet in the interest of time. But I'd love to know what advice you have for people out there who maybe have a really great game idea or have maybe a couple of games that they're working on and they're going, man, I want to go and do what these guys did. I want to go publish my own game. I want to go start my own company and do this. What advice do you have for someone who's in that boat?
It's going to sound really cliche, but I'm going to support it. And it's because the reason I started was I always would tell my dad all my different game ideas and stuff. And so I was telling him about this superhero, you know, D&D game. And he said, why don't you just make it? And I was like, you know what? Like, it sounds so simple, but I just had to start writing something down and like try to follow a framework. And so the support to that statement of like, just start writing things down is, I call it like I stole the idea from video game design, but a game design document, or like some people will call it like your game design Bible. And you kind of write down your ideas and goals for the game, and then start building mechanics that fulfill those and support those ideas. You know, like I was saying with a strategic game, if you want like a strategy tactical game, you know, and these things can change over time, of course, but I think that's just a really great way to start is like, okay, I want to make a strategy game. What are the mechanics that I want for that? Or I want to make a narrative game. What kind of mechanics do I want that support that? And I think that helps you kind of start to realize where you're going with things instead of, you know, maybe feeling like, where do I even start? So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Anytime I start working on a new project, it starts as an empty, you know, document, and I go, okay, how does it work here? How does it work here? Oh, I had an idea for this. And then like 6 months later, once all of my ideas are out on the page, then it actually turns into, okay, here's a structure and a strategy and how all the pieces are tied together. Ricky?
Yeah, and maybe to echo that, I think the big thing is when you do get started, it's not a race. I will tell you right now, Odinsky Gaming, there was 3 times we pushed back our backer kit / Kickstarter because we were going to go Kickstarter route. We were going to go, you know, that way. And we said, you know what, we don't have our community growth yet. We don't have like our, you know, marketing set up or whatnot, right? And oddly enough, we've had our game built out for such a long time as well. We had all the way up to level 20 rules built out, you know, for a while. But that's the thing, like, it's okay to be in a marathon and know that you are going to get there and know that you can, you know, launch something if you do want to go a backer kit, campaign funding kind of route, that you can get there. But when you're ready, right? Especially if you feel that your game is at a point where I would buy my own game. You know, I would play my own game. I would use that, right? So I think it's just important for any, you know, creative person, anybody who's going that route, trying to create a game, you understand to get started for sure, but make sure that you just keep on staying on it, keep on training, so to speak, right? Be open to ideas. Zarek mentioned it earlier that him and I, we make sure we're open to each other's crazy cool ideas, because sometimes that creates some really cool explosive mechanics that you're just like, this is awesome, you know? And when you're ready, you can actually cross that finish line, so to speak, of going out there and launching something, you know, so bring it out to the world. So
yeah, I think those are wise words, and hopefully it's helpful to someone out there who is really interested in doing this thing themselves. Guys, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming and doing this video. If you are watching this and have just, for the first time met Zarek and Ricky, go check out Indominant. You can find it from Odin's Key Gaming. It's a really cool system. I had a chance to check out the primer that you can get by signing up for the newsletter, correct?
Yes.
On the website.
Or our Discord.
Or go to the Discord and join the Discord. You can get the primer materials there. There's some really cool stuff. I'm a superhero fan. It's one of my favorite genres of storytelling. So this is something that I'm really excited about, something that you should be really excited about. And thanks so much for joining us on this video.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And it's on Hedron, and our full rule book will be on Hedron too. So
yes, that is a good call out. The primer is on Hedron now, and then the full rule book will be coming in the future.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.